Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yes.
Today's going to be a little bit different for us. Usually, we're sitting here unpacking the architecture of reality or talking about time as an illusion, trying to wrap our heads around the concept of the eternal now.
Yeah, the safe stuff. We're usually very safely in the lecture hall.
Exactly. Very philosophical,
Yeah.
very safe. But today we're leaving the lecture hall completely. We're stepping right into a dimly lit living room in Elmira, New York.
And it really does shift genres, doesn't it? We're moving from the theoretical straight to the visceral.
We really are. We're going to witness something that feels less like a philosophy class and honestly more like a horror movie. A moment where the veil didn't just thin out, it completely ripped open.
It's an intense one. We are looking at a very specific night in the life of Rob and Jane. That's Robert Butts and Jane Roberts, the authors of the Seth Material.
But Seth, the personality you all know and love, he isn't really the star of this show at all. In fact, he's barely even in the building.
No, he's not. This is a total outlier. And for you listeners who are deep into the archives, or even if you're just starting out, we need to be very specific about what we're actually looking at today.
Right, so we are looking at session 435 of the early sessions, book 9 of the Seth Material, recorded on September 11, 1968.
A Wednesday, specifically.
Yeah, a Wednesday. And before we dive into the really spooky stuff, we just had to get some quick housekeeping out of the way. I want to make sure you all know that this deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
We are explorers here, not owners.
Precisely. We're here to analyze, to critique, and to learn from the source material. So set the stage for me. Why are we zooming in on this one random Wednesday in 1968? What makes session 435 the black sheep of the Seth sessions?
Well, think about the standard format for a second. Jane goes into a trance. She takes off her glasses. Her voice changes. Seth comes through. He says, "Good evening," and then he dictates a book or gives a nice, orderly lecture on the nature of consciousness.
Right, it's very controlled, very professorial.
Exactly. And Rob sits there taking notes like a diligent student. But session 435, it wasn't really a session at all. It was a breakdown of the barriers. It was a leak.
A leak, like a plumbing leak.
More like a frequency leak. Imagine you're trying to tune a radio to a classical music station that's Seth. But suddenly, the dial just slips and you pick up a distress call from a sinking ship. Or, well, in this case, a crashing car.
Oof. Okay, so our mission today for this deep dive is to figure out exactly how that happens. How does psychic data crash land into a living room?
And what does it do to the person receiving it? Because, spoiler alert, Jane does not have a good time in this one.
No, she does not. And I think the biggest mystery we need to tackle today is the verification aspect. If you see a car crash in your mind,
Right.
and you scream about it, and you physically feel the pain, how do you know if it's real?
Right, or is it just the subconscious playing a very, very dark trick on you?
It's a detective story, a ghost story, and a psychological thriller all wrapped up into one package. So, let's travel back in time. September 11th, 1968. Elmira. What is the vibe in the apartment before the madness actually starts?
Well, context is everything here. You can't understand the crash without understanding the road conditions, right? And in this case, the road condition was total exhaustion.
Well, because Rob and Jane had just come off a very intense weekend.
Exactly. They had company over, an editor named Tam Mossman from Prentice Hall. Now, if you've ever hosted a house guest for a whole weekend, you know that feeling. You are just on all the time.
Oh, yeah, you're entertaining, you're discussing business. And in their case, they were deep diving into metaphysics for days straight.
So their social batteries are completely dead. They're intellectually fried. Tam leaves. It's Wednesday. They have a quiet supper around 5 p.m., and almost immediately, the atmosphere in the apartment shifts.
I really love Rob's perspective here because it is just so relatable. He's in his studio, he's painting, he's just trying to decompress. And he notices Jane is being really quiet.
And in a marriage, silence is very loud.
Oh, absolutely. If my partner is dead silent in the other room, I'm instantly running through a mental checklist. Like, did I take out the trash? Did I say something stupid?
Rob actually writes that he initially thought she was just grumpy or tired. He's looking for the mundane explanation.
Right. He says, at first I thought she was tired and simply didn't want a session. He thinks she's just hungover from all the social interaction.
But it wasn't just a mood. Jane wasn't giving him the silent treatment. She was experiencing, well, how do we even describe it? A physics glitch.
She called it the pyramid effect, which, honestly, when I first read pyramid effect, I'm immediately thinking Egyptian tombs. But that's not what she means at all, is it?
No, not at all. She's talking about geometry and energy. They are sitting in the living room. Ride describes it as very clean and neat and well lit. It's cozy. But Jane starts feeling like she shouldn't be subjectively aware inside her own body.
Meaning she feels like she should be out of her body, like astral projection.
More like she feels she should be observing the scene from the outside, almost like a future version of herself looking back at this exact moment. But then she feels this cone or pyramid of energy.
A cone of energy.
Yeah, she describes herself as being at the wide base of the cone, and the energy is tapering up and focusing directly on Rob.
On Rob. So he's the target of this energy.
He's the apex. He's the focal point.
Why a cone, though? Why not a sphere or a beam of light?
That is the million-dollar question. In a lot of occult theory, and even in later Seth Material, the concept of a cone is used to describe how energy is stepped down from one reality to another.
Step down. Like a transformer on a power line.
Exactly like that. Or think of a funnel. If you want to pour a gallon of water into a small bottle, you use a funnel. Jane is feeling the funneling of massive amounts of sensory data into a specific point, which happens to be Rob.
So the room is the bottle, and the energy is the water being poured in.
That's a great way to look at it. And because of that intense pressure, her senses start to hallucinate, or rather, they start to hyper-perceive.
She mentions the colors in the room. She says they are brilliant and pulsating.
And the sound, too.
Right, the sound part really tripped me up. She talks about the traffic outside. She says the traffic noise was loud and clear, which is normal for an apartment. But then she says the quality of the sound matched the intensity of the colors.
Synesthesia. The wires are crossing in her brain.
She is literally hearing the colors and seeing the sounds.
Yes, the environment itself is waking up. It's no longer just a backdrop to their evening. It's an active participant.
And then she decides to walk to the kitchen. Just a normal trip to get a glass of water or whatever. But the hallway isn't just a hallway anymore.
She calls it the charged pathway.
The charged pathway. It sounds like a level in a video game.
It really does. But for her, it was genuinely terrifying. She looked out from the studio and saw the hallway as electrically charged. She felt these strong intensities in the bathroom doorway.
And then she says something that I think is the key to this entire deep dive. She said she felt like she was a ghost returning to the scene.
Let's just sit with that for a second, because usually in a ghost story, we are the solid ones and the ghost is the misty intruder. She completely flipped the script.
She felt like the intruder in her own home. The reality of the house, the walls, the floor, the air, felt more real and alive than she did. She felt like a phantom drifting through a high-definition world.
It's like she tuned into the IMAX version of her apartment and she realized she was just a 2D character.
That is a perfect analogy.
Sure.
And this energy, this high-def charge, it didn't just stay floating in the air, it started looking for a place to land. Which brings us to the haunted furniture.
Object psychometry.
Which sounds like a very dry college course, but in practice it's incredibly creepy. The energy starts playing tag with the objects in the room.
Jane describes it as following a psychic focus. It wasn't random at all. It was hunting. And it landed first on a blue wine decanter.
A very specific object. Not the couch, not the television. The decanter. Why that?
Well, let's look at the provenance. The decanter was a gift. It came from a friend named Pete.
And where does Pete live?
San Diego, California.
Okay, pin that on the map. San Diego. Then the energy jumps. Where does it go next?
A plaster head. A sculpture sitting on a table across the room.
And who gave them the plaster head?
A friend named Bill McDonnell.
And where is Bill right now?
Santa Barbara, California.
Okay, hold on. I am not a conspiracy theorist, but we have San Diego and we have Santa Barbara. We have a distinct California connection happening here.
We absolutely do. And you have to wonder, is Jane tuning into a specific frequency? Is she tuning into a geographic location?
It's like the objects are acting as antennas.
That is the core theory of psychometry.
Yeah.
That objects absorb the emotional residue or the coordinate points of their owners or their origins.
So if Jane is in a state of high sensitivity, that cone affects these objects might be lighting up like beacons on a map for her.
She's triangulating something happening on the West Coast.
So she's standing in her living room in New York, but her psychic radar is locked onto California. The room is pulsating, the hallway is electric, the wine decanter is glowing with invisible energy. It sounds completely chaotic.
It is pure chaos. But, and I really love this contrast, there is one thing in the room that is completely, utterly normal.
The cat.
Willie.
Really the cat.
I love Willie. Rob makes a specific point to write this down in his notes. He says, Willie, our cat, asleep in a chair near me, wasn't involved.
It's the perfect comedic undercut to the tension. The humans are having a full-blown metaphysical crisis, the walls are breathing, and the cat is just fast asleep.
But wait, doesn't that debunk the whole thing? If the room was actually charged with electrical energy, wouldn't the cat freak out? My cat freaks out if I open a bag of chips too loudly.
That is the skeptic's argument, and it's a completely valid one. But here is the counter-argument for you to consider. Animals live purely in the present. They live in physical reality. Jane had dissociated. She had moved out of standard physical reality.
So the storm wasn't happening in the room itself. It was happening in Jane's perception of the room. Exactly. The photons hadn't changed. The air pressure in the room hadn't changed. Jane's decoder had changed. Willie was still watching the standard broadcast. Jane was watching the pay-per-view special channel from hell.
The Hell Channel? Great. So the tension is building. It's getting late now, 9:45 p.m.
Jane mentions a connection to a thunderstorm here. There had been a literal physical storm that afternoon. She compared her internal feeling to the charged air between thunderclaps.
Oh, you know that feeling? The hair on your arms stands up because you know the boom is coming, the static pressure.
She was acting as a human barometer, and Rob is actually starting to react physiologically, too. He starts yawning.
And not just a standard, boy, I'm tired yawn, right?
No, he says, I yawned and yawned, yet did not feel tired.
What is that about? Is that contagious magic?
In a way, yes. In many of their sessions, Rob notes that yawning is his body's way of shifting gears. It's a sympathetic nervous system response to the energy shift in the room. His body knew Jane was about to go under before his brain even registered it. He felt bleary.
So it's 10:15 p.m. They've been circling this cone for hours now. Jane finally closes her eyes.
And immediately, the tone goes from weird to highly dangerous. She says, I have the impression of something far away coming closer.
And then she gives Rob a warning. And honestly, if my partner said this to me, I would just leave the house.
Read it. It's chilling.
She says, I also have the impression that somebody could take me over rather completely if I let them, with some rather emotional stuff, that I'd go through something I don't particularly want to. Full blast.
Full blast. She knows the levees are about to break. She knows that if she opens the door, it's not going to be a polite, intellectual conversation. It's going to be a tsunami.
And Rob, does he just say, great, let's get the popcorn?
No. Rob is the voice of pure sanity here. He says, just forget it then.
Just forget it.
He's remembering a previous bad experience, a seance they had with a guy named Jerry Kramrick, where things got way too intense. He doesn't want to see his wife hurt. He actively tries to pull the plug.
But you can't really pull the plug on a tsunami once it's crashing down.
No, the signal is already too strong. Jane says, I got the word Maisie a name.
Maisie.
She says, I don't see anything, but I got the feeling of a car accident.
And that's the trigger right there. As soon as she says car accident, the visual feed cuts in.
It happens so fast. She senses Maisie is young, maybe 21. She senses children involved, brothers, sisters.
And then the crash. Jane just screams.
And she doesn't just scream sitting down calmly.
No, Rob describes this vivid, terrifying action. Jane jumps up onto the couch, literally climbs up onto the furniture, throws her hands in the air, eyes squeezed tight shut, and just screams.
Slam on brakes. Slam on brakes.
Can you even imagine being Rob in that exact moment?
Oh.
It's dark, it's late. Your wife is standing on the sofa screaming about brakes.
It's totally visceral. She isn't describing a crash from a distance. She is in the crash. She is pushing her physical foot against a phantom brake pedal.
She yells, I don't know, slam, slam brakes. She is reliving the final seconds of impact.
Now, we really need to talk about Rob's reaction here, because
Yeah.
this is where the friction comes in for a lot of people reading this.
Yeah, because if Jane is screaming, I'm panicking, I'm shaking her, I'm trying to wake her up and snap her out of it. But Rob grabs his pen.
He calls it his cold-blooded attitude.
Cold-blooded. Those are his exact words.
He says, I thought that a cold-blooded attitude was best, so talked loudly to Jane.
Is that okay, I mean, is that professional detachment or is that just cold?
It's a really complicated moment. You have to remember, they are researchers at their core. They have dedicated their lives to documenting this phenomenon. If Rob drops the pen and hugs her, the data is lost. The session ends.
He made a split-second decision to be the reporter, not the husband. That is incredible discipline.
Right.
Or maybe obsession.
Probably a bit of both. He realized he had to anchor her. He couldn't join her in the panic, or they'd both be lost in it. So he shouted questions at her. He demanded details. He used his voice like a rope to keep her tethered to the living room while she was drowning in the vision.
And Jane. Is she actually answering his questions?
She is, and this beautifully illustrates the duality of mediumship. Between the screams and the sobs, she talks to him. She explains that she's trying to continue without being overwhelmed.
So there's a part of Jane the observer part, watching Jane the participant freaking out.
Yes. The observer is trying to relay the message while the participant is suffering the actual trauma.
So the crash has happened, the car has stopped moving, the loud noise is over, and now the panic shifts. She starts frantically looking for someone.
Evelyn.
Find Evelyn.
She cries this over and over. Oh, hon, trying to control it. I get Evelyn. Find Evelyn.
Who is Evelyn?
In the vision, Evelyn is the passenger. And Jane, who seems to be inhabiting the driver, Maisie is terrified that Evelyn is dead.
The details she gives here are so granular. It's not just a generic car crash.
No, she describes cracked glass, windshield. She describes the specific terrain. The car is off the road. It's down a bank or a slope. There are bushes everywhere.
And the door.
The right door is open. And she says whoever was on the other side of the car is gone.
Gone. Like thrown from the vehicle. Ejected.
That's the heavy implication. Ejected.
God, that is so dark.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
And Jane is feeling the physical toll of this impact. She starts rubbing her left arm, complaining it really hurts. But the part that really gets to me, the part that feels straight out of a possession movie, is the face.
The facial morphing.
Rob actually stops writing for a second to observe her face. He says her expression changed completely. She caught her lower lip between her teeth, folded her upper lip over it, and wrinkled her chin in a very peculiar way.
He had never seen her make that face before in their entire marriage.
Never. He said it was a highly specific alien expression.
So she wasn't just feeling the emotion of the moment. She was mimicking the actual muscle tension of the woman in the car.
Or the woman in the car was actively using Jane's muscles to express her own pain. It's a total override of Jane's biological system.
And the atmosphere of the scene she describes next, it's the silence that really kills me.
It's very quiet. Maybe nobody find us.
That line right there, maybe nobody find us, that perfectly captures the absolute isolation of a rural car accident.
It really does. The adrenaline is gone. The screaming is done. Now it's just the dark, the pain, and the terrifying fear that help isn't coming. She says she sees lights, maybe police cars, but they haven't arrived yet. She's just stuck in limbo.
There's also a lot of confusion about who is who. Jane cries out for Papa.
Papa should know it wasn't my fault. Breaks bad.
She wants forgiveness.
She desperately wants her father to know she didn't kill Evelyn. It wasn't reckless driving. It was mechanical failure. Breaks bad.
Rob finally realizes she's in way too deep. He tries to pull her out of it.
He tells her to stop, but she says, I can't get more unless I go all the way in.
The ultimate medium's dilemma. You can't report on the fire unless you walk directly into the flames.
Finally, at 10:47 p.m., she opens her eyes.
Is she back? Is it over?
Not really. Rob says her eyes were wide and staring. They weren't seeing the living room at all. They were seeing something else. She says, Robbie, tell them, whoever they are, they shouldn't be here.
She's seeing spirits right there in the room.
She feels totally invaded. She says she wasn't supposed to be here. It's like a contamination. The barrier broke and something dirty got in.
She fully snaps out of it at 10:51 p.m. 4 minutes later.
She is scared. She is completely shaken. Her arm still hurts.
So the event is over. The deep dive into the crash is done. Now we have to pick up the pieces. And this is the part that drives me absolutely crazy. The verification.
The morning after analysis.
They have a notebook full of hard facts.
Right.
Hazy, Evelyn, car crash, bad brakes, slope, bushes, cracked windshield.
And the California connection.
Right. So what do? Do they call the police in California? Do they scour the newspapers?
They start with what they know. They look at their immediate circle first. Remember Tam Mossman, the editor?
The guy they just spent the exhausting weekend with.
He has a girlfriend.
Don't tell me.
Her name is Eve, short for Evelyn.
No way.
So immediately, Rob and Jane are thinking, was this a warning? Was this precognition? Is Tam's girlfriend Evelyn going to die in a car crash because of bad brakes?
That is a terrifying thought to have about your friend.
It is. But then the universe throws a massive curveball. The very next day, Thursday, Jane has to make a business call.
She calls Ace Books in New York City.
She speaks to an editor she will be working with on a new project.
And what is the editor's name?
Evelyn Grippo.
Okay, stop. You have to be kidding me.
I am not kidding. The day after screaming, find Evelyn, she gets on the phone with an Evelyn.
So we have two Evelyns now. One is a friend's girlfriend. One is a business contact. And neither of them was in a car crash.
Not that they know of.
So what is actually happening here? Is this the trickster element you mentioned earlier?
This is a classic theory in parapsychology. the trickster function of the subconscious mind.
Break that down for us, because trickster sounds malicious.
It's not malicious, it's symbolic. Imagine your subconscious mind is a dream weaver. It knows you have anxiety about this upcoming book deal. It knows you are extremely nervous about talking to this editor, Evelyn Grippo.
Okay, I follow you.
So the subconscious takes that anxiety, that fear of a crash, of a failure, and it grabs the name Evelyn, which is floating in your future timeline.
It reaches into the future.
Potentially. It grabs the name Evelyn, it grabs the feeling of panic, and it directs a play. It creates a scenario, a car crash that explains the panic and uses the name.
So it's a hallucination built on a precognitive fact.
Exactly. It's a symbolic drama. The crash wasn't physical, it was emotional.
That is frustratingly complex. So you're saying there was no Maisie, no bad breaks. It was just Jane's brain screaming, I'm scared of this phone call.
That is one prominent theory, but you're right, it doesn't explain everything.
It doesn't explain the California connection at all. It doesn't explain the pyramid effect or the physical pain in her left arm.
And it certainly doesn't explain the specificity of Maisie. Why Maisie? Why not Sarah? Why not Jane herself?
So what's the other option then?
The other option is the wrong number theory.
Yeah, ham radio intercept.
Yes. Jane turned on her psychic receiver. She pointed it, consciously or unconsciously, toward California, using those objects as coordinates. And at that exact moment, somewhere in the hills of California, a 21-year-old girl named Maisie went off the road.
And Jane just heard it happen.
She picked up the distress signal, but because psychic data isn't a GPS system, she got the raw emotion, she got the names, she got the sensory details, but she didn't get the zip code.
She got the what, but not the where.
Exactly. And because she couldn't interpret the where, she couldn't help. She could only suffer through it.
That is deeply tragic. Be a witness to a death you can't prevent.
It really highlights the chaotic nature of this phenomenon. We always want the paranormal to be helpful. We want Seth to say, do not get on Flight 101. We want next week's lottery numbers.
We want utility.
But sometimes the paranormal is just noise. It's the raw, unfiltered pain of humanity bleeding right through the walls.
Rob actually reflects on this, doesn't he? He talks about the signal versus the decoding process.
He does. He realizes that the signal strength, the intensity of the screen, the tears was a 10 out of 10. But the decoding, the interpretation of who and where was completely scrambled.
Like getting a text message that is all emojis and exclamation points, but you have no idea who sent it.
And that is the inherent danger of mediumship. You are opening your door to complete strangers.
So did they ever find a Maisie? Did they ever confirm the crash happened?
Rob notes days later, no clues. Tam's girlfriend Evelyn was perfectly fine. Evelyn Grippo was fine. They never found a news report of a Maisie in California.
So it just remains a cold case.
An unresolved chord.
Which, in a way, makes it more haunting than if they had found a newspaper clipping. Because it leaves us with the ultimate question, was it real?
I think the fear was real. The pain was definitely real. Whether the car existed in 3D space or just in psychic space, that's a question for the philosophers.
So, bringing it all back home, we started this deep dive wanting to know what happens when this session goes wrong. What is the ultimate takeaway for you?
I think the takeaway is humility.
Humility.
We think we are solid. We think our houses are fortresses. We think our minds are totally private. Session 435 suggests that under the right conditions, fatigue, atmospheric pressure, intensely, we are porous.
We leak.
We leak. And the world leaks into us.
And it's a stark reminder that the Seth Material isn't just dry lectures on the nature of God. It's born from real, messy, terrifying human experiences.
It's blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally.
And Rob, I really have a new respect for Rob, the cold-blooded scribe.
He did what he had to do to get the data.
If you want to read the full account, and we really only scratched the surface of the details today, there are pages of notes on the specific sensory distortions you need to go directly to the source.
Do not just take our word for it. Go read the primary document. This was session 435.
From the Early Sessions, Book 9.
These books are absolutely essential. They're published by the New Awareness Network.
You can find them, buy them, and support the preservation of this incredible material at sethcenter.com, the Early Sessions.
Go there, buy the book, read it with the lights on.
Definitely with the lights on. And maybe keep the cat in the room with you.
For a reality check.
Exactly. Look at the cat. If the cat is sleeping, you're probably okay.
Probably.
A huge thank you to the New Awareness Network for keeping these archives alive. And thank you to you, the listener, for stepping into the cone of silence with us today. It's a lot to process, I know, but think about your own living room tonight. When it gets quiet, What if those objects actually broadcasting? Just something for you to mull over.
It was a pleasure to unpack the chaos with you all.
Drive safe out there. Check your brakes.
And watch out for the curves.
We'll see you in the next deep dive.
Goodbye.
Bye.